Hi.
We are.
I have been in contact with other non-physical beings through channeling, and everybody's saying about the hard coming times. I mean, some of them talk about a nuclear war, the tides are going to raise, natural disasters, and they even speak about you need to be prepared and have a piece of land, food, water. Money is not going to be worth nothing in a few years. I know that part of the answer of that is that if I am flowing with my stream, I will be fine, and I don't have to worry about those things. And if I pay attention to those things, I become those things. But I guess my question at the end is, what future do you see for the planet right now? I mean, when there's a lot of people having negative thoughts, there's a lot of wars going on. It seems that the majority of the people right now are having negative thoughts.
Well, here's the way we see it from our point of view. There's so much in your question, and we want to address all of it. The most significant thing that speaks right to the question that you brought it around to at the end in terms of what we see. If you've been listening to us talking about how the contrast is giving birth to desires, you have to understand then that the more exaggerated your contrast becomes on your earth, then the more powerful your desires become also. So because we are focused upon the desires that are being born out of your conflicts and contrast, we see the future brighter and better than it has ever been before. We're not kidding you about that. In other words, in the same way that the sicker you are, the weller you want to be, the more disruption there is in terms of your economics and in terms of your politics and in terms of your warrings over religion, then the more desire is shooting out there before you, and the better your future life experience is. It has always been that way. So the potential for improved life experience is growing greater and greater and greater and greater, as is the potential for horrific experience. It just depends on whether you're upstream or downstream. In other words, it's like a giant magnifying glass is laid over everything that you are. So there's more of everything. Everything is being amplified. But having said all of that, as you speak about how it seems like people are feeling negative and it seems like there's more negative than positive, we want to say to you that that is not the vantage point that we have at all. The well-being is huge in proportion to the not well-being, and always has been. And even in these leading edge, most dynamic of all dynamic times, in these leading edge times, still the proportion of well-being is huge in comparison to the minuscule not. You do not need to worry about the longevity of this planet. You do not need to worry about the diversity of this planet. Well-being abounds and always has. And you know how we know that? Because we know the way the whole thing is set up. We know that you came from non-physical into this experience with the deliberate intent of experiencing the contrast to give birth to the improved idea. And we know that the improved idea is the vantage point from which all new energies come forth into this experience. So you've got this beneficial dilution ratio thing going on, where old ornery disconnected ones are croaking, and new, evolved, enlightened beings are being born. In other words, think about it. Think about you living life, and let's say you were warring and you were suffering and you were fighting and you were defending, and you gave birth to all kinds of rockets of desires relative to well-being and people living in peace and people getting along and people being able to raise their children and people being able to have wonderful experiences. In the midst of all of that warring, these are the rockets of desires that you were giving birth to. And then think about those that are being born from that vantage point. In other words, they're not being born into this environment from the disconnected, warring, shortage mentality. They're coming from source, from that connection of knowing the well-being. And so you got all this going for you. You got old, ornery, disconnected ones croaking right and left. You've got new ones that are enlightened, being born. You call them the indigo children. They're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. We call them cable ready. In other words, they are in alignment with source energy as they come forth. And do you notice the rebellion within them? They are not willing to go with you in that place of unworthiness. When you wag your finger at these new ones and you say you are inappropriate, they say, not me, you are inappropriate. I am not inappropriate. I'm born knowing well-being. You've forgotten it and you're not dragging me into that hole. That's what the new ones are saying. And then there are all of those like you who got dragged in the hole, who crawled out. who are now giving your children nurturing. You're allowing them to be who they are. In other words, this is not just well-being. This is supersonic well-being. This is ultra well-being. This is the well-being of all well-being. This is the time of awakening. These are the best of times. Things aren't getting worse. Things are getting better. But you can focus on the contrast if you want and pinch yourself off from all of this, or you can have one wallop and ride on the stream of all streams that is flowing in these times. Every one of you said, I want to be part of this time. I want a fast ride. I want to feel strongly what I'm feeling. I want to know who I really am. I want to feel the intensity of my alignment or not. You wanted in on this, and here you are. And we don't know about you, but we're having fun.
I'm having fun. Thank you.
Oh, isn't that good to know? Here's a good thing to write in your book. Whether it's about a world event, whether it's about a person who's giving you grief in some way, take a fresh new notebook and write their name at the top of the first page, and then beneath their name write these words. What is it that I'm thinking about you that I'm using as my excuse to not go with my flow? Can you feel the power in that? Not what are you doing that's keeping me from what I want. What is it about you that I'm using as my excuse to focus upon to keep me from turning and becoming who I really am? You take all of your power back with that. And then once you identify it, laugh about it and say to yourself, I think I'll not use this or anything as my excuse not to go with my flow anymore. I'm letting you all off the hook. Never again am I going to ask you to need to be some way or do something in order for me to feel good. I take my feeling good completely as my joyous responsibility, and I'm getting better at it every day. And when you start meaning that, oh, the people in your life are going to be so refreshed. Oh, to be let off that hook, can you imagine how good that would feel? Wouldn't you love to have somebody say to you, hey, you don't have to behave in any particular way. I'm going to connect with love, and I'm going to love you no matter what you do. Wouldn't you love to be offered that kind of unconditional love? And wouldn't you love to offer that kind of unconditional love? And don't you know that that's the kind of unconditional love you are offered every single day as the source within you calls you forth and cares not where you are? Just come this way. Just come this way.